Yes, yes, party people in the place to be. This is the war, the return of the war post game, NFL post game, Bears coverage for 2022. Uh, resurrecting our NFL coverage with new faces. One new face, at least here you can see to the side of me. No, this is your man Kyle Means, if you don't know. But my man with me, next to me, Saul Rodriguez, is if you're familiar with the At Bat podcast, and he's already done a couple. He's done like a show with Running with War as well. He's producing for us, but he's also our Bleed Bears reporter. So the best pickup of the off season, in my opinion, Mr. Saul Rodriguez joining me here for a nice little powwow after the Bears, surprising and pretty, wet and wild. I'd say 19-10 win for Week 1 opening week of the NFL season. Trey Lance and Justin Fields, the storylines all obvious there coming in. And we saw a lot of interesting things from both guys, from both teams, good and bad. Basically it was a tale of two halves type thing for the Bears. Went scoreless in the first half, but came on with 3 touchdowns in that second half. While the rain, was off and on, but by the end of the night, in the afternoon, it was a monsoon. And shout out to the Bears. I actually shout out the Bears. I was a little annoyed that I couldn't be out there in person. Me or Saul weren't out there, though we were, we are credentialed members of the Bears media, but for some reason we weren't. Our credentials weren't passed through for this week. But given that it was raining sideways by the end of the game, I'm really not tripping over that. So I'm kind of glad I was able to stay home and watch the game in the warm confines of my crib. But Saul, I don't know if you feel the same way, but man, just give us your overall thoughts on the game, man, and what do you think was so most important sort of sticking coming out of the game for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction, and I'm glad to be here, joining Warren.
Yeah, glad to have you, man.
Yeah, all things on there. I mean, I think what everyone's gonna be talking about mostly is the rain. I think it was just insane, and affecting so many parts of the game. But I will say this: the way that the Bears kind of woke up in the second half a little bit, whether it be offensively, whether it was just in Fields or whatever. The running game, I think, wasn't really there all game until, like, for example, Khalil Herbert, for example, at the end. But yeah, I think what stands out to me is kind of just the resilience, the Bears staying in the game, the defense stepping up when it needed to, and just the Bears being able to contain a young quarterback like Trey Lance and pull out a crazy upset game, despite the weather conditions and all that. I think that was probably one of the craziest things about Week 1 for sure. When it all ends after Monday.
Yeah, no doubt. It was good to see how the Bears defense really. Yeah, right quick. We'll before I get back into some commentary, we're live on Twitter as we're under Running with War. So ignore that for now, but definitely look at us live on Twitter. We're live streaming now, as well as YouTube. YouTube's a good place. I guess it'll say Running with War on there too, but that's technically our basketball show. This is our post-game Bears broadcast. But yeah, we are live on YouTube and Twitter at War Media on Twitter. But yeah, definitely encouraging to see the defense really. If you look at the defense overall, despite the fact that they lost Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks is no longer here. And some of these mainstays, and the defense, the coaches. There's been a complete overhaul of the coaches, but Alan Williams, the coordinator, and of course Eberflus, a defensive coordinator, veteran defensive coordinator himself, have brought the same principle, really the principles that we always want to see in the Bears defense over from their time in Indianapolis. The hits philosophy, everybody may note that this week. Today, they make note of this throughout the offseason and have made note of it today, starting with the early punch out that Jalen Johnson was able to do, forcing the fumble. That was a key play early on there. You wind up getting a big interception and a near pick six from Bojack in the second half. Really just a lot of flying around, energetic defense, and like I say, hard hits, hard effort, and they kept after the 49ers in a lot of ways and kept the team in the game. I was resigned in the first half to this being like another game where the Bears have to the defense has to keep the Bears in the game by all means, and the offense is just not going to be there. But as we'll again reiterate in the second half, that wasn't the case. But in the first half, that very much was the case. But they kept up their energy throughout the game, and they were not only there to keep the Bears in the game in the first half, they helped close it out in the second half. And that's, like I said, you were seeing contribution at all levels. People like Dominique Robinson. So many people are wondering, like, what's this kid's going to be like? And he's looking out the box like he's going to be ready to rush the quarterback pretty consistently. Brisker and Gordon were doing well in the backfield. I mean, these are young guys coming in right away and contributing to this defense. And at the same time, you get some veteran contribution as well. Like I said, Bojack with the interception. Roquan has 7 tackles to lead the team today and 2 assists on top of that, but 7 solo tackles on his own. So, he's ready to play for his money, basically. And, these are all just very encouraging things from the most, reliable phase of the team already, defense. So that's good to see. And then on top of that, like you said, you have that, the offense adding on to that in the second half. But again, let's stick with the defense again, because for now, they were facing Trey Lance, and that was a big, aspect about this game. A big, what is he going to be like? How much is he going to show us in this first game? And at times he did look like, I think overall, the 49ers did make the better choice in having him start over Garoppolo to come into this season, moving on from Jimmy G, where there is, pretty much a ceiling on his progression and his evolution as a quarterback, moving on to this young kid with, who you putting him with a lot of different people around him who can score, who can contribute. Like, we saw the touchdown today from Debo. Mitchell, who they got injured and came out the game. He's a good piece. And a few others on that offense, Ayuk and such, but there was a rough one for him, man, to properly start off his career as a starting quarterback, playing against that Bears defense and playing in that rain, that weather. I'm sure he's going to remember this game for quite a while.
No, yeah. I mean, I think the way that he played in the preseason, a lot of, he got a lot of scrutiny for, like, he didn't look like, the starting quarterback they wanted. But it's like, I don't know, for me, I think it's not much to look into. It's the preseason. A lot of guys, look better once you, get to, real game like this. And yeah, in the beginning, it just, in the most part, I would say most of the game, he had some very impressive plays. He had a lot of gutsy runs. I feel like, I know, in one I put in one of the tweets that I had today in today's game, I was like, this dude looked like Pac-Man, and at one moment, because he was like getting every he was going in like between guys and finding a way through. So yeah, I mean, I definitely I agree with you in the fact that they made the right decision over Garoppolo, and just because of Trey Lance's athleticism. Because obviously they've compared him a little bit to Justin Fields in the way that they react to situations and the way that he runs around, kind of avoiding chaos, as I always say with Justin Fields, and it showed today. And I think it really, especially towards the end, as much as they didn't get the big throws and all that late in the game, Trey Lance was there to get a couple first downs running. So yeah, I mean, it was a gutsy performance regardless of the situation. I know the conditions are bad, but yeah, I mean, I think I definitely see the 49ers, despite this loss and despite the all the talk that's going to happen after this, I'm sure it's mostly negative. They're going to the right direction.
Right. We got to remember too, this is a team that started 2-4, last year, and that was the record they had when they came into Soldier Field to beat the Bears last year. They were 2-4, and they wound up in the NFC Championship game last year. So, part of that I think is the reason why they wound up switching from Jimmy G was because they might have felt that they underachieved in a lot of ways in the regular season, or that they like I said, they were just limited in as much as they could get from him as compared to Lance. And the interesting thing about the numbers that they were Lance is that they're already they're already willing to utilize him to rely on him a lot, for his run as well as his passing. He had 13 completions for 28 yards on only 164 passing yards in this game. And he had as many carries as he had completions, 13 for 54 yards. So, he led the team in both carries and rushing yards, as well as his passing yards today. So they're going to be relying a lot on him, in general to contribute. But, he's got to do more and he's going to have to do more going forward than he did today. He only didn't have any touchdown completions, had one interception, and didn't even rush any touchdowns either. So, you compare that to, it was like, you brought up the comparison, and like in a lot of ways they sort of mirror each other, given their talents and their abilities. And where they them of course always going to be compared to each other coming out of the same draft. Fields, the start wasn't that great for him, but he winds up with 8 completions on 17 attempts, passing 121 yards. The important thing for him is that he had 2 touchdowns compared to 1 interception. He had that bad forced throw over the middle early on in the game, but didn't make another mistake of that caliber throughout the game. In the second half, it looks like Luke Getsy, at least in this game, showed his ability to adjust and get Fields out in the open field for some plays, for some runs. Fields ran 11 times for 28 yards. Not a high average, but some of those carries, would just wound up being sack plays and stuff like that. Again, issues with the offensive line. That's going to be the case throughout the year. But, Fields made plays, and when it counted, he made plays. And when, on a couple of big occasions when his guys got in the open, he found them and they scored. And that's more than you could say for most of what he was able to do last year with Nagy and that offense that they provided. So, we're seeing progression here. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially on offense, but we're seeing progression here. And they were, this team last year would not have won this game, but they won it this week because they were able to take advantage of situations in the second half. And, it was good to see. They, Montgomery didn't look that great. That was kind of rough seeing him on some plays, but Herbert, he kind of scooted on a few and wound up getting in the end zone himself in the second half. So, what's your take on the offense and how it executed, particularly in that second half? So,
yeah, in the first half, I agree with you. You said it earlier, and just like kind of alluded to the fact that it was kind of like a tale of two halves in a way. But yeah, the first half, I was for sure like, I'm like, here we go again. Like it's just same as last year. There just wasn't that many throws that Fields was completing, and the running game was stagnant. As much as, like I said, it stayed most of the game, except for, of course, like the little burst of Herbert. But yeah, Montgomery, not much was there either. I guess you can accredit a little bit to the San Francisco defense, but at the same time, with the depth of running back to Montgomery is, you could argue, still make an argument that he should have, had way more yards. But I think too, like the way that Fields has played when under pressure, he's sure he has had to adapt. I think it's more of like he's adapted to more of like that's more than it's his style of play. But I think that the way that the offense was able to kind of help him out, as you said, find those guys that were wide open, like Pettis or Pringle at the end. It all worked out in the end, and it's something that for the most part, like with any Bears quarterback, it's more than we can say, especially recently.
Yeah. I found as someone who didn't really wanted to play much into the whole Dominique Foxworth stuff from a couple of days ago, I pain myself in doing this, but I'm gonna read a tweet from Skip Bayless here. I haven't even really digested yet, so I don't know exactly what point he makes, but let's see what point he makes. There is no way to fairly critique Trey Lance's first game performance in the driving Chicago rain, but watch, the poor kid will suffer a deluge of criticism from Jimmy G lovers all week long. I don't know how many Jimmy G lovers there are, but that's Skip for you. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a controversy going out there in San Francisco. At least it shouldn't be. Maybe it will be manufactured by the national media or even maybe the local media out there. But they really shouldn't be too hard on themselves. I think again it was key that I think Mitchell coming out was key, and the weather was key. Like that was crazy weather towards the end, and they still had a good chance to to take over the game towards the end. Although I felt pretty confident when the Bears got up 3. I felt pretty confident beginning at that point where it was like, I don't know if Lance got it in them to really take back the game at that point. Well, definitely when they got the next score and got up 9, should have been a 21-0, of course, but Carlos Santos struggled today. But once the Bears got up by 9, I was feeling pretty confident at that point. And Lance is just, like I said, he's still learning to run, man. He I don't know if he's crawling, but he's still trying to walk. At least he's not running yet. So literally, figuratively, not literally. He can run, but he's it's still gonna take some time with him, definitely. And so I say, really, we could put as for them. Good luck for San Francisco. Try to do what you can in that tough NFC West, but the Bears knocked them off. they got past them, and a good sign of progression for a team that last year should have beat them, but they didn't. And this year they did. They made it happen. And what else that maybe that we haven't talked about yet, or anything that sort of stood out to you. I'm gonna go back to some stats here, maybe look at some stuff that sort of stood out both positively and negatively. Maybe I think a negative I would say definitely is the lack of use of the tight ends in the offense. There was that one play with Griffin along the sideline where he didn't, he caught it but didn't get his feet in. But you wind up with nothing from Kmet. That's very disappointing, especially giving that him Kmet and Fields in the they didn't have much time to play with each other on the preseason in preseason games, but especially in that Browns game, that last Browns game, they had connected a couple times, and it was looking like, okay, this is what we can expect to see in the regular season. But today, nothing from him. That shouldn't be that's something that Nagy and them would do, man. You gotta, Getsy, man, Flus, you got to do better than that, But hopefully we'll definitely next week against Green Bay, they're gonna have to have some contribution from Komet. But hopefully that'll not be the case. I do like the fact that now another thing with the offense is to get again the passing game. We're not, the Bears just aren't a passing factory yet. Fields still some work on his connecting downfield, but he found Pettis for the one play, the one big play for 51 yards. He got Pringle on a nice one, and of course Equinemius on the touchdown. David Montgomery actually leads the receivers today with 3 catches, so he's the only one with multiple catches. So of course that's a lot of that's coming off screens coming out the backfield. So that's one thing going forward too. Hopefully the Bears can find better ways to get the ball upfield. And Mooney only had 1 catch. Got to see more from Mooney as well. It's there's, like I say, work in progress, man. But I try to look at some more positive stuff, but I think you have to probably go to the defense to look at overall positives. If you want to dig for some more positives, but I'll leave it to you, Saul. Like what from your eyes, and what your point of view? What was some other things that stood out for you today?
No, yeah, I think the way that Eddie Jackson kind of redeemed himself. I think the way that he played, at the beginning was a little shaky. I know they were kind of putting him, like they said, one-on-one with Debo, and kind of Debo just bullied him, man. In that one play. Not to say Debo wouldn't bully a lot of guys in there, but he did there, and then being able to kind of in the second half, kind of pull it together and make big plays when he needed to. But also just the rookie play too, like Jaquan Brisker. I think he played well all game, just kind of being hungry in there, getting those tackles. And but yeah, no, I think the defense is definitely the star of the game for sure. That deserves to be talked about. I just think it's funny, right? Because they're going to talk about the defense, and they always do, right? But I think the only reason why a lot of people will bring up the Justin Fields making big plays just because we're probably not used to it. It's seeing stuff like that, when you need
quarterbacks always get the outside.
Yeah,
it's outside criticism or outside love, depending on situations. So, like I said, the plays that he made that impacted the game, you definitely deserve to give him the credit for that. He helps make plays. There was some scrambles as well where he made plays and got allowed the Bears to advance the ball when they couldn't have otherwise. He makes stuff like that happen. That's why he's a potential game changer. But like I say, there's still just that consistent execution, that crisp passing, getting receivers and running routes in good positions where they can make plays and everything like that. There wasn't much in the way of drops, I think, in this game, but they, like I say, they just the 49ers got a good defense as well. They very good defense, some speedy guys. They were able to keep up with people like Byron Pringle in the up the field when they were trying to run with them and stuff. So yeah, it was a challenge for both quarterbacks on both sides. But go back to the defense though. You mentioned Eddie Jackson being able to make plays in the openly in the field. That's what, and you mentioned Brisker and his ability to tackle and contribute that way. That's exactly what the Bears were looking for in getting Brisker out the draft this year. They needed a strong safety so that Bojack don't have to bother with being strong. He could be the free safety that everybody wants him to be, the playmaker guy who can jump out in front of some passing lanes and make a big play every now and then. First interception since 2019 today. I mean, that's crazy, man. When you think about who he was on that 2018 team and how much of an impact he was, like for him to really fall off he did a little less in the year after, but really nothing since then. If he can get back to anywhere near that player that he was in 2018, that's gonna make a big difference for this defense. And Brisker's gonna make a big difference for this defense too. Again, given his aggressiveness, his ability to play multiple levels and play physically. Just fantastic stuff, man. I said, going back to the numbers, he had 4 tackles on his own. Gordon has 6. The playing. He's going to be switching at different corner positions at times with some nickel, sometimes on the outside. Nicholas Morrow with 5 tackles. Kendall Vildor had 5 tackles. Good for him. And of course, Dominique Robinson, 4 tackles, 2 assists, and 1.5 sacks. That's the big one there. 1.5 sacks. Robert Quinn didn't really do much today. Only had 1 tackle contributed to him, attributed to him, I should say. Armon Watts too is a guy to look out for. He had 2 tackles today, but his ability, he can have some ability to help definitely up the middle with pressure. That was a lot of people said that was a pretty good pickup to be able to get after cuts and everything there. So you're looking at very much a better defensive line for the Bears than they had just 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can produce and do what they need to do, already against a young mobile guy like Trey Lance, they're gonna be opportunities for them to really impact some games going forward. Maybe even next week. Rodgers isn't. He can move, but he can't move like Trey Lance. So if the Bears can get after him next Sunday night and do some things, make things a little harder on him than usual, maybe we won't see him talking about his ownership of the Bears as much on Sunday Night Football. But that's looking ahead. But yeah, man, like I say, pretty good stuff, man. Today we a good way to start off another year. And like I said, before we get into the overlook of the rest of the league, the rest of the early games, and starting the beginning of these late afternoon games. Anything else you wanted to throw out there from today? I think again the weather was interesting. I tweeted late in the game. This was a good argument for those proponents of Bear weather.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so much talk this week and in this off season about getting out of that type of stuff and getting in a nice modern facility out in Arlington Heights, and that looks to be the future, definitely. But I think and there gonna be some times where you're gonna miss some games like this. And there's another thing about today. Saul, man, I don't think I can't ever remember really them playing a game like this early in the season. Like usually openers are pretty, sparkly, nice, shiny days.
Mm-hmm.
September in Chicago, we still got mostly nice weather around here. But one of my tweets on the out to Jeff Eisenbrand, my man Jeff Eisenbrand, tweeted like the weather just went straight to November today. It's like it was like what is all this stuff is. Yeah, we should be waiting another 2 months for all this stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked for the Bears, man. And that's like I said, it's one of those, you could call it a perfect storm. That'll be the title for this episode, the perfect storm. Like I said, weather, inexperienced opposing quarterback, defense came strong, and just enough offense. That's the type of stuff that the Bears usually win with.
Yeah, and then kind of what you were saying before too, and just like what also stood out to me is like if they can play like this against a 49ers team that has plenty of talented offensive weapons, it's going to say a lot, when they play against a team like Green Bay. Sure, Green Bay is without, Devontae Adams now, but they still got guys like Lazard, who obviously Rodgers likes for a reason. And I think they're, along with Aaron Jones, as you said, looking ahead a little bit, I think that's probably one thing too that kind of popped into my head at the end. It's like they got this win this week, right? Now we're moving on to next week. And it's definitely a big confidence booster going in. And I mean, looking at what's going on right now in Green Bay, as we're going to talk a little bit about around the league, the Vikings, up early on Green Bay off there, and the Green Bay offense haven't been doing that much yet. But yeah, hopefully the Bears can carry this in the next week and get this right. But you are also right in the fact that I have always liked, as much as I'm personally a big advocate for these guys, going to Arlington, but I've always been as much as people around here always complain about the weather, right? But when it comes to like football and stuff, like I love that. I love having like the type of advantage, like having like a team from California come here and get like just absolutely drenched in snow or rain, especially in a playoff game. Like, it's I think it's obviously a big advantage. But yeah, most like I guess we got a few years to enjoy it if they are going to end up moving to Arlington. So we'll definitely appreciate it way more, in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a couple ways to look at it. Like, for Bears, for the Bears themselves, of course, a lot of our players come from warm weather areas and stuff too, just like anybody else in the NFL. So they might not always appreciate it, but they get the chance to play more of their games here than a team like San Francisco or the like, But yeah, that's part of the tradition. It's part of the culture here, and all that, Yeah, if looking, I guess 20 years down the line, I'm sure they're gonna be times where I'm probably gonna miss seeing games where the snow fills the stadium or rain like this and everything like we saw today and all that. Probably won't miss the wind, but and or the bad grass if although like I say, it didn't make much of a difference for Santos today, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But like I say, looking at these amazing stadiums and in Minnesota, we looking at one right now with the Green Bay game. Like, the Bears should have a facility like that of their own. I'm of the thinking that I'd rather them stay in the city somewhere, but I'm not necessarily against. I'm pro them moving out of Soldier Field. I'm not pro necessarily all is nice, but that's something that apparently the family and the franchises wanted for decades, really going back to Papa Bear, and that's sort of what they are intent to do. So, them being the only franchise in the league that doesn't own this stadium doesn't make sense to me. They should own their own stadium, and they should be able to maximize the stadium and whatever development they want to do around it the way that they want. So, if I still have worries about it in a generation or two being like a Washington situation where half the fan base doesn't want to go out to Northern Virginia, and they've lost a lot of their fervor in the DC area, the DMV area, because they're all out the way from their city, and on top of that, they're not playing any type of football that makes you want to go out there. That's the thing for me. Like, if the Bears don't evolve their operations in the next 10 to 20 years, they can get all the money they want. Mm-hmm. And they could, get money hand over this Arlington development. But if they don't evolve the way that they do their football operations, and they're still producing mostly subpar football teams in the next 20 years, you ain't going to need another team in the city to keep people away from that stadium. Mm-hmm. People are going to, all the shit, when the shine come off that stadium or that development or whatever, people going to leave it alone on their own, especially here in the city. Because, I'm not going to drive 60, 90 minutes and do all this and that to see a 6-10 team that's doing the same crap that they did 30 years ago and when I was disappointed in them, So, that's my opinion on that. There'll be much more deliberation on that in the months and years to come. But like I said, overall, I think that's going to be that looks like that's going to be the situation. They are moving out there, and they're going to leave behind bare weather and all this stuff, and try to be more of a modern team, which is a good thing. But you can stand to miss stuff like days like this, because sometimes, a lot of times, they do work in our favor, and they worked in the Bears' favor today. I say "are," I shouldn't be saying "are," but they worked in the Bears' favor today. But yeah, we're gonna probably wrap up here by about the bottom of the hour, 4:30. But pretty interesting week one overall in the NFL. I don't know how much you was able to observe the rest of the league, but one thing that sort of ties into the Bears, sort of a comparison thing that jumps out to me off top is like I said, people getting their money. And you got a situation here where you got a player who held out and represents himself, doesn't have an agent, couldn't come to a deal in the camp or the preseason, and is playing now on that last year of his deal. Of course, that's Roquan Smith here in Chicago. But really, the more publicized situation of that has happened in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. Of course, reasonably so. You're talking about a quarterback, a past NFL MVP, really a game-changing guy. A lot of people say could be one of the talents of his generation. And he came out today, and again, like Roquan, he said, "Man, give me my money. I'm coming out here to perform. Stop fronting on me." And he led the Ravens to a big 24-9 win over the Jets. Let me look at his numbers, because, 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns passing, 17-13 completions, 213 yards. So not a crazy day. He's had some way bigger days than that. But they handled the Jets pretty well and did their thing. So that's definitely something I'm looking at, developing throughout the rest of the season. How Lamar is gonna show out and try to get his money. And it's worth comparing, I think, the two situations. Even though in some ways it is apples to oranges, because quarterbacks are so, their roles are so much bigger in the grand scheme of things for all franchises than even a great, potentially all pro level guy like Roquan at his position. But it's still gonna be interesting to see how they both go about things and how these two franchises handle these two star players. Comparisons. But another thing, staying in the AFC East, AFC North, excuse me, a big tie into the Bears is with Pittsburgh. Trubisky, man, getting the start as the Steelers quarterback, and he did pretty well. It looks like. We get to that one. That was a wild game, and we were able to watch that game live here in Chicago on Channel 2. It was on while the Bears were on, so I switched to that a few times. The Steelers wind up getting the win there in overtime. There was I know there was the Bengals had to come back. Steelers jumped out ahead, like it was a 17-3 lead at one point. I think it was 17-6 at halftime. Yeah, 17-6 at halftime. Bengals, came back and had a chance to tie the game late. I think there was a missed field goal. Actually take the lead. There was a missed field goal there, extra point, I should say. A lot of missed extra points today. These pro kickers, looking bad as the college guys. College guys were bad yesterday. If you watch the college game, a lot of missed kicks in big games on the college level, and the pro kickers just as bad. And the bad thing about that is that if the pro kickers are that bad, you can't. Who you gonna replace them with? The college kickers are bad too. You can't just pluck one of these young guys and say, take over. They might have to start getting guys from Europe again to come over and kick. Man. I know these American guys don't want to kick no more.
And it's funny too, as you're saying that. I have the Chiefs and Cardinals game in the back, and
that's
Kansas
good.
City. Kansas City missed one too. So I don't know what's going on in week one, but that's like, I think that's like, what is that, 1, 2, like 5 or 6 missed kicks already, and that's not even counting all the other ones I haven't seen. So yeah,
I guess the kickers may be missing that 4th preseason game. Looks like they need that, But the Pittsburgh pulled it out though. Mitch, no turnovers in this game, which is big for him. 194 yards passing and a touchdown. He ran a couple times too, didn't get big yards there though. But he got a nice, set of really his best set of receivers that he's ever had. In Pittsburgh, he connected a lot with their big tight end Pat Freiermuth. I think I'm saying that right. Had connected with Deontay Johnson quite a bit too, 7 times. So he's got a lot of guys he's going to be able to throw to consistently and know that, sort of short to mid-range passing. They're going to do a lot of that in Pittsburgh with him. And he's going to be able to do his thing. They picked up a nice young quarterback, it looks like, in Kenny Pickett, a Pittsburgh guy who they're familiar with. And he's probably going to be their future. But, Mitch can really have a chance to go to the playoffs and do something of substance with that team. I don't know how long he'll be in that seat as a starter, but that's a team that could possibly win now in Pittsburgh. They can, and you look at Cincinnati, them being the defending AFC champions, they're still very much a threat. They got a lot of some of the best offensive talent in the league, but they turn over the ball quite a bit today. There's still a lot of issues for that team. And, really, there's been a lot of, Burrow had 4 interceptions today. There's also a long history of teams who lose the Super Bowl really coming back and having bad years afterwards. So I don't know if the Bengals will be a good bet to, win that division, especially with the Ravens and Pittsburgh already in it. Pittsburgh may be able to leapfrog a couple teams in the AFC and do some things this year.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the games I was also paying attention to. I have a friend who's a Steelers fan, but just because of the Trubisky thing, like I just want to follow him because I'm like, I think a lot of people, just because he played here and just the media and all that, I think they gave him too much too much negative comment, too much negative stuff. But it's like I think he's a competent quarterback in the sense that he could start for a team like the Steelers. I think it's a perfect situation over there because the type of team that the Steelers have, they don't. And not that you don't. I mean, everyone wants a star quarterback, but not that you need a star quarterback. That's the type of situation the Steelers are in with the the way their defense is set up and the type of offensive weapons they got. He doesn't have to do too much, and he's obviously excelled today and was able to beat Joe Burrows and beat the Bengals. I think that was a big win for them. And a very similar win to I feel like with the Bears and 49ers in the sense that, a lot of people did not expect that either. I think they expected the Bengals to kind of come out, and get their first win against the Steelers, and a team that's kind of still in development, I guess, when it comes to the quarterback position and kind of seeing what situation they're going to be, whether it's going to be Pickett or not. But yeah, that was another game that I was definitely watching. And another thing I wanted to say too, kind of going back to what you said about the Lamar Jackson situation, is that kind of going up my alley a little bit. Kind of what it does remind me, besides the Roquan Smith thing, is Aaron Judge and the Yankees, right? That he's also playing on a situation right like that. And it's like, for me, it doesn't make any sense. Because, when it comes to, and you made a good point with the Roquan thing, the defensive player compared to a quarterback, but it's like, I don't know, man. If you're trying to win and you're trying to win in the next couple of years, for example, teams like the Ravens and the Yankees are trying to win now, that makes even less sense. But if you have a player like Lamar Jackson, a player like Aaron Judge, sign him now. There's no excuse to that, in my opinion. Just because, I mean, unless it's the player wanting to test the market, that's another thing. But it's you gotta just give them what they want because you're trying to win now. And Lamar Jackson, when I saw that, I was like, no way they didn't extend this guy. it just doesn't make any sense because they want to win with that guy, and he is definitely a star quarterback that can take a team to the Super Bowl, and so we'll see what happens. Yeah, it is going to be definitely one of those stories that people are going to be talking about all season long, because of the fact that he's basically going to be going to have the ball in his court.
You got it, Saul, man.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder about these teams. Like, what are y'all really on, man? Just give the guys what they want.
Yeah.
Like these talents, these guys don't just come along every now and then. Like, if you're the Yankees, you can sort of take for granted the talent like Judges in a way, because they just if they don't produce a guy like that in their farm system, they typically just buy them off from somewhere else or trade, or give up what they need for a trade. They're the Yankees, but at the same time, Judge is about, as we go on a little baseball tangent here, Judge is about to he's about to set the American League home run record. Like, you don't give that guy up, man. So this, they went to their little arbitration thing with him earlier this summer. Like, you could have just saved all that, man. Just give him what he wants. And that was the thing. Like, that was a good point you made too. Like, if the player is dead set on hitting the market, there's not much you can do as a team in those occasions. But if the guy is like, well, I want to be here, there was a similar situation with the Cubs last year with their guy, with the three big guys that they traded off. For the most part, they all wanted to stay in Chicago, but the Cubs were dead set on like, nah, we doing this rebuild thing that even though we're not admitting it. We're doing this rebuild thing, so y'all too much, y'all too rich for us at this point. So we're gonna let you go. The Yankees had no reason to let go of a Judge, and no NFL team really has to give up their. We know that the quarterbacks, the value of quarterbacks, the contracts, they only go in one direction. The trend that they only trend in one direction. They go up, but you're going to pay a lot more in lost wins and lost revenue if you don't hang on to a guy like Lamar Jackson. And their backup guy is nice. He actually beat the Bears last year when they played here in town, but he's not Lamar Jackson. So you hold on to that guy and give him what he wants, and especially when he's representing himself, it's like there's no go between. The dude is coming in every day working. Just go up to him and say, "Hey, what you want? I want this." All right, let's print it up, sign it, and let's move on. What? That's the thing with the Roquan thing too. Like during the preseason, they was having these like talks. They were like had brought on broadcast, so they would show him talking all civilly. They was just talking on the sideline with Poles and all these guys. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? If y'all ain't talking about this contract, but no, you ain't. If I was in that situation, if you ain't talking about my contract, you ain't got to be talking to me. Just talk to me about that money. And let's get this money situation dealt with right, and let's move on. But I guess like I said, I ain't been in that situation, so I guess there's more complications to it than that. Anyway, let's continue this overview of the league before we wrap up. Looking at the division, the NFC North, that the Bears occupy. They said we got two of the other teams going at it right now in the America's Game of the Week for Fox. Packers down 10-0 now. It looked like it could have been 14-0 very much, very easily, I should say. Jefferson had a nice catch in the end zone. We only got 1 foot in. So, Minnesota wasn't able to take advantage of that, but they still got the field goal, and they're up 10-0. Like you say, saw Green Bay off to a slow start, particularly on offense. So it'll be interesting to see how this game continues to play out. Minnesota did a lot of restructuring of this, brought in a new GM and everything in the off season as well. I forget. Did they change coaches too? I forget.
I'm not 100% sure. I think. Let's see.
Yeah, well, but you should. Yeah, they did a lot of change and stuff through the all season, and
Mhm.
but they retain a lot of talent. You look at Justin Jefferson, like arguably maybe the best wide receiver in the league right now, and they like I said enough talent on that team to where they were able to give up a guy like Armon Watts after cuts, and the Bears jumped on them. So Minnesota's looking. They're a team that feels that they can compete in the division every year, and if they they pull off a win here this week, take advantage of a slow starting Green Bay team, that'll be big for them. It kind of will be harsh on the Bears too for next week because they're not gonna want to go 0-2 as in Green Bay.
Mhm.
0-2 start overall and 0-2 in the division. So if Green Bay loses, it's going to make it a little bit harder on the Bears for next week. But did you confirm on the coach?
Yeah, they switched coaches. They got the offensive coordinator from the Rams, Kevin O'Connell.
Yes, right. And
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
why I forgot that because the Bears and the Vikings were all in the mix with the coaches that when they were doing the carousel and everything. So they wound up getting him as a and yeah. Again, I'm not again. That was such a big talk too. Was when Jim Harbaugh was supposedly leaving Michigan, and he's either gonna go to Minnesota or Chicago. No one wasn't gonna go either. He was just getting more money from Michigan. But yeah, that was definitely like I said. Minnesota did pretty much an overhaul of their situation like the Bears did, but nobody was riding them all off season about what they did and everything. I guess people were confident in Kirk Cousins more than Justin Fields for some reason. Maybe there was reason for that, but they like I said again, you have Justin Jefferson, you have got their running back Cook and everything. They got Cook out. They got talent up there, so they got a chance to maybe they got a chance to take the division every year, and winning today would be a big deal for them, especially over Green Bay. Always a big deal, and that rivalry, bit more spicy, low key than the Bears and Packers. For a lot of reasons, but they say they don't like each other up there. But like I said again, looking at the North, Detroit had an interesting week one against the Eagles. They lose 38-35, and that was a comeback effort for them too. They scored 14 in the final quarter to make that a more competitive game than it would have been over. Otherwise, Jared Goff, playing against his former team. Big game from DeAndre Swift, 15 carries and 144 yards and a touchdown. They got two other rushing touchdowns for Jamal Williams. And of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the brother of Equinemius St. Brown, had a touchdown really close to his brother. I don't know who did it first, but they both scored relatively close to each other this afternoon, and that got around on social media. So big up to the St. Brown family. I tweeted that there was some reason that their pops gave them those weird ass names. I guess so. They were meant to stand out from day one. I guess. So. Good on them. Hopefully Equinemius. I wasn't too high on that signing. By the way, he didn't do much in Gray at all, and somebody tweeted about that like he's already matched his touchdown contribution for Green Bay, here in Chicago. So, I think that was John Greenberg at Athletic. He used that as an argument. Greenberg, he's very sarcastic. Argument that Fields is better than Rodgers. He's already able to get more out of Equinemius than Rodgers did. So I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to go there. You know,
Why not?
I'm willing to. Yeah, why not? You know, why not? But yeah, that's Detroit. Detroit like they got some offensive talent as well. So they may be in a lot of games like that this year. I don't know how many they're going to win, but they couldn't pull it out. The Eagles, of course, a team a lot of people are high on. They brought in a lot of talent. Brought in a lot of talent in the offseason. AJ Brown and the like, and the Jalen Hurts had a pretty good game. He didn't have any passing touchdowns, but had a rushing touchdown. But he threw for 243 and ran for 90. So that's you talk about a guy who is coming into his own as a dual threat from the quarterback position. We may be hearing a lot from Jalen Hurts this year. But again, going over the rest of the early scores, Patriots kind of surprising. Only 7 points for them. They lose to the Dolphins 20-7, I should say. The Browns edged out the Panthers in Baker Mayfield revenge game, supposed, but he couldn't pull it off. Browns knocked them off. Saints overcame the Falcons. That was a late deciding game. They showed the end of that here in Chicago after the Bears were gone. It looks like the Colts and Texans wound up tying. Yep. Yeah, 20-20. Of course, those are two so teams. I would have thought the Colts would have took the Titans, but Texans. I'm saying, excuse me, the Texans. But Colts and Texas tie, and that's not a good way to start your season with a tie. Okay, and
in that game they actually scored 17 in the fourth quarter. The Colts did.
Okay,
they come back and they still couldn't.
Yeah, right, because they were there. Yeah, so yeah, the Colts salvaged something out of today, I guess. Given that was the case. Matt Ryan had 352 yards passing in his Colts debut. Jonathan Taylor, big game for him, 161 yards rushing in the touchdown. But Michael Pittman, they got weapons too. But I don't know. That's a team. They do some weird things. Like, remember that Jacksonville game last year, late year? Like, they don't seem to show up when they need to. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they started off really well last year. I remember, especially because, I followed them closely because they had that, Hard Knocks in season thing, and they were they started off really well, and they ended up just having a meltdown last season. A lot of people saw them as a Super Bowl contender, midway through the season, because they were coming back and over 500, and then all of a sudden things just didn't go their way in the end. So yeah, I think they definitely have a better situation with the quarterback. I think Matt Ryan could. Can continue to do well there, especially with the weapons they got. So, yeah, I mean, if the Colts do everything right, which, obviously not a good start when it comes to the win-loss column, but definitely they have the weapons to make something happen in Indianapolis.
Yeah. And one more game in the early session. Washington Commanders. We don't have to avoid saying their name anymore. They overtook Jacksonville 28-22. That was a game that was decided mostly late. Most of the scoring was late. Commanders had 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Jaguars scored 10 points of their own in that fourth quarter. But Carson Wentz had 4 touchdowns. They had 2 interceptions as well, but he threw over 300 yards. And Antonio Gibson gave him a nice performance, combined rushing and receiving, and Terry McLaurin got a nice couple of receptions for him in the score. They saw some Jahan Dotson. I saw him mentioned on the timeline a couple times, and he had 2 touchdowns. He had 3 receptions for 40 yards, but 2 touchdowns. That's a rookie receiver there that looks like people are high on. So good for Washington. They, I don't know about struggling so much against Jacksonville, but Jacksonville, they seem to have they've regained some pulse, now that they're past all that mess from last year. So, we'll see how things develop with those teams going forward. And right quick before we wrap up, the last games, the games currently in action, like I said, Green Bay and Minnesota heading towards halftime right now, 10-0. Minnesota's up. Titans, who I almost mixed up with the Texans a minute ago, actually are up 13-0 on the Giants. They didn't pull the trigger there with the quarterback change, did they?
With
Tannehill is still
the Giants?
starting.
Or Tannehill? Oh,
No, the Titans.
I mean. Yeah. No, yeah, they got
Tannehill is
Tannehill in
still starting.
Yeah.
And actually pretty decent start for him. 117 pass yards and the touchdown. So they're beating up on the Giants, which should be commonality in their games this year. Chargers are beating up on the Raiders 17-3. And Chiefs doing well against the Cardinals 20-7. And we still got Buccaneers and Cowboys tonight, and Broncos and Seahawks on Monday night. Anything that you looking forward to? Now let's go back to Vikings and Pat. Justin Jefferson got that touchdown back. He's just scored, and now it's 17-0 Minnesota, man. That's looking a little rough there for the Pack.
No, yeah, I mean that's what I was thinking when I was looking at the score. I mean, I'm like, what is going on? And I think also what might be happening, and this is just like from seeing a little bit of the game, but maybe people start to question the not having Devontae Adams, and if that was because a lot of people said, oh, can he live without Devontae Adams, and they did.
Yeah.
Like he made a big deal about, hey, he feels really good about Lazard, and nothing to take away from Lazard, obviously just one game so far, but I don't think anyone sees him as a wide receiver like Devontae Adams. So we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, if anything, this is spells even more trouble for the Bears because of the fact that how this division is starting to shape out. And I think, as you said, the Lions are going to be in games, which could cause trouble for the Bears when they play them. The Vikings, I think they're a really good football team. I think obviously as long as Kirk Cousins is able to be able to pull out those big games, and pull out those big touchdowns late in the game. Aaron Rodgers always going to be Aaron Rodgers. So this division is going to be really interesting, and I think this happening is just going to cause even more of a stir when it comes to the NFC North.
Yeah, I mean, look, trying to cover Justin Jefferson 2 times a year, that's not what you want.
Yep.
As any defense, and I keep thinking about next Sunday night, man. The Bears, man, they might be walking into a buzzsaw up in Lambeau, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe they're right for the picking too. Defensively, maybe there's probably more issues on defense for that team than even on offense. It's not good, of course, to have a shutout in the first half, but hey, the Bears were able to get over that. No reason why Aaron Rodgers can't. So we'll see. But it's been a pretty fun and interesting week 1 of the NFL season. Crazy stat there. Jefferson 158 yards compared to 101 total for Green Bay so far in that game. So I'm gonna enjoy this second half. The rain is cleared up. I think if the Vikings keep whooping on these Packers like this, I think I'm gonna have a pretty good rest of this afternoon here. This is like I said, where we gonna try to do this every after every game. But as I say that, we might not do it after next week's game, given that it's the late Sunday game. But if we do, expect the unexpected from us. So if we do, just check, just follow our Twitter and our YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube, War Media, and whenever we do go live, you'll see. You'll get some sort of notice and everything, and you'll see when we do go live. But we're getting back to expanding our NFL coverage here. Saul is great. I met Saul last year covering the Bears at Soldier Field, and I'm very lucky, through a couple of different things happening to be able to have him of use for War Media this year. So, thank you, brother, and look forward to working with you throughout the rest of this season and on and on and on. And we'll be I guess Saul will likely put when we lay out our regular coverage for the rest of the year, Saul will have another recap show of his own coming out early in the week, as well as 3 and Out, our traditional recap column on the Bears games. You can look for that on Mondays, as well as I'm gonna put out my Monday. I'm not doing my Monday night means show regularly, and I still may do some specials, but I'm going to do a Monday morning means column going forward. So look for that tomorrow, and as well as 3 and Out on the Bears. As we say, our final piece on the Bears. Those will be on our War Ready Substack. I always have trouble coming up with Substack on its own. I don't know. I never think of Substack, but it's War Ready. Search for War Ready on Substack, and that's where you get all of our, our nice original writing there, opinions and reporting, from guys like Saul and Josh Hicks and myself. We try to provide cool stuff on there from different angles, and angles that are not always as obvious as some of the other stuff that people provide y'all. But keep look out for that stuff on Substack. Look out for I say Saul. We should have another NFL show that we'll do as well during the week. Look out for that. And also, Saul does the At Bat podcast through the remainder of the baseball season. Him and Miles doing a great job with that. We really appreciate the work you've been doing throughout the baseball season on that. So if you want, we had our little baseball thing that we incorporated here today, so you got a little taste of that. And if you want some more of that baseball talk, especially now with the Sox showing some life, try to keep up with that. With Saul, they give you some great baseball talk there. Other shows, Running with War, Second City Sports, that you can stream, live stream that on Sports Zone Chicago, but we have the podcast version of that we put out. The Davis show put that out with Ken Davis and everything. So yeah, just keep rocking with us, man. That's on our Anchor podcast platform, Anchor Anchor.fm /War Media. So really a lot of ways to keep up with us and what we're doing. Show love, and we'll show it right back. And this is a great part of the year, man. Football, baseball, pennant races, and everything. Basketball is back around the corner. We're gonna give you all that you're looking for in there and more on those fronts. So keep up with us, and hope y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy your week. Get off to a good start of the week. And Saul, you got anything else you want to add, man?
No, thanks for having me on, and of course, bringing me on in general. And definitely follow us on Substack and Anchor and all those. And look out for our baseball coverage for sure. We're gonna have a postseason preview, as soon as the season ends, with Chris Penna and Gabe Wilkins, and try to get more people on there. So definitely check us out there. And anything on Substack in general, look at our articles and all that, and follow us on Twitter. Rock
with all the homies that you see on War Programming. Follow them on all their platforms and everything, all their social media. Follow Saul, man. Get his numbers up on social media as well. And Yeah, all the shout out to everybody that's on the Bears beat, all the independents, and everybody that's doing their thing. And we'll have more people on our involved in our Bears coverage. We sort of just doing this on the flyby, with this week, but we're gonna have more people. Joe Tanks will be back. Like I said, Ken Davis should be involved with some stuff, and some of our other people. Hopefully, Bakina McGee as well from Second City Sports. But we'll and some other folks as well that I'm looking to get involved with our football coverage throughout the year. So, like I say, just keep up with us, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. And this Bears team may be more fun than we even expected, man. So it should be a good one. Like I said, another good year to be involved with Bears coverage, and we'll hopefully we'll be at some games. Like I said, some happened this week. I don't know what happened this week, but we've been, like I said, me and Saul were there last year for our respective platforms, and we expect to be at games live, bringing you some up close and personal coverage as well this year. So definitely look out for that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll planning on being there for most of the games and giving you some exclusive content and all that. But yeah, follow us and make sure to just keep track with everything we're doing. And like I said, we'll try to do this every week and give you some more war media coverage on the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, rock with Tick. We had across the screen all game, man. Tick Blitz. You got a promo code there, War, 5% off of orders. Any type of tickets you can get, man, with Tick Blitz. You want to get on some Bears tickets, man. It may be harder to get by the end of the year, man. Rock with them and like I say, put in that promo code and save you a little bit of money, man. So that's like I say, support those who help support us. And let's keep it moving, keep it circulating, man. So in the meantime, I'm Kyle Means. That's Saul Rodriguez.
Sir.
We give you send you off for the good one. Have a good one and keep on bearing down.